From yang and yin, from the extremes of polarity. Because you see, light is as intensely alive as you can get. But if you go too far into light, it'll burn you up and you'll get darkness. People don't know, they don't realize that the farthest you can get into darkness, it'll start getting bright. Because you can't have darkness without light any more than you can have light without darkness. So when we were babies, we were never told this. And it's the secret that light and dark go together. It is the only real secret there is. Black and white. But what we've forgotten the secret, because with black and white we're playing another game, which is called, black might win. See, that's what makes everything a thrill. If you knew you would always win in any situation, it would be just a pushover, and life would suddenly cease to have any interest whatsoever. You would be, imagine yourself in total control of everything that happens. A kind of Jehovah type. You would be bored to death. Everything would do just what, no surprises, nothing. You see, when in a game, you're playing a game, and the outcome of the game becomes known. Supposing in course of bridge, the four players all suddenly realize together that one of them has all the cards, will take the tricks. What do? They don't play the game, they cancel it and begin again, shuffle the pack. When in chess, two pundits are sitting there meditating, one of them suddenly says, well, it's obvious, in 53 moves you're going to win. They cancel the game. So in the same way, an omniscient God who knew the whole future would cancel the universe and say, think up another. So it is fundamental to the game of black and white that it must seem that black will win and eat up white. That, in other words, non-existence will triumph over existence. Or rather, let me put it this way, non-being will triumph over being. Because the secret is that existence is being and non-being, oscillating. So that for every time you get being, you get non-being. Just as everything is vibration. And these spectra are vibrations. Light is vibration. If I sit next to a girl at the movies and I want to make flirtations with her, and I put my hand on her knee, and I leave it there, she'll cease to notice it. But if I gently pat her knee, she'll know I'm there all the time, because I go on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And that is energy, you see, that's something happening. And so everything is on-off. Only sometimes on-off happens so fast that you don't notice the off. For example, light is a pulsation, but all light seems to be constant. And so we don't notice the off because our retina is retaining the image of on while the off is happening in the light. So we don't notice the off, except if you get an arc light. You can notice a little flicker to it. And that's why they don't allow arc lights in sawmills. Because sometimes the flickering of the arc light can synchronize with the movement of the teeth on the saw in such a way that the saw seems to be still when it's actually moving, and people get to very serious accidents. But everything is on-off. Now then, sometimes, you see, we don't notice the off, but at other times we don't notice the on. And that is when we're asleep, when, in other words, or when we're dead, when the trough, the off section, takes a long spin. Because you see, there are big vibrations and little vibrations. Some vibrations happen so fast that we can't measure them. Others happen so slowly that it takes a century. It may take 1,000,000 years for a single swoop of the curve that goes down or that makes the upcrest of the wave. You see, when you look at the wave pattern, you must realize that the crest is measured from the top to the middle of each trough. And the trough is measured from the top of each crest to the bottom of the trough. They overlap. So if you can argue it's all trough, you can argue it's all crest. It's a funny world. So the argument that it's all trough and that maybe just a little bit of crest, about poing like that, poing. These are the people who say, well, we are flashes in an eternal darkness. Pessimistic. Then there are the people who say there really is no death at all. Death is just an illusion that seems to happen. This is the optimistic. And the optimistic point of view is essential to the pessimistic, as the pessimistic is essential to the optimistic. Because you wouldn't know who you were, you see, if you didn't have both points of view. I'm not going to see, and when I teach, I don't try to persuade anyone. And everybody's at liberty to disagree, because I wouldn't know what I was thinking unless there were people to disagree with me.